I want to talk about my experiences traveling. The richest experience of my life was going to Thailand in 1989. I was there for 3 weeks. I went with my husband's brother, who was deaf, and his hearing wife, who was from Thailand. The two of them had been trying to convince us to go with them on a vacation. And after much deliberation, my husband and I finally decided to go for it. When we told my husband's brother and his wife, it put a smile on both of their faces. We then started doing all the necessary planning. We got our passports and filled out paperwork with the documentation that we needed, like our birth certificates. The night before our trip, my husband was too nervous to sleep. That wasn't the case for me. I slept like I was knocked out cold. We did all our packing, and our friends took us to the airport, where we flew to Chicago. Then we waited some more until we met my husband's brother, his wife, and their 2 daughters. We finally got on the plane, which was a 747, a jumbo jet. That was my first time flying, so it was quite an experience for me. We finally took off out of Chicago, and it was a long flight. I'm trying to remember how long it was. It's like 16 hours. We spent most of our time in our seats and ate on the flight. We arrived in Japan and had a 5-hour layover without much to do. We spent our time looking in the duty-free shops and ended up buying some fragrant perfume. It was also interesting to watch people having conversations in Japanese. Japanese people would talk very rapidly, punctuating their conversation with small bows of their heads. It was fascinating to see that bowing all over the airport. I also saw a Japanese woman who was a monk with a shaved head and wearing unique clothing. It was all very interesting. Finally, it was time for us to get back on the plane to Bangkok, Thailand. When we got there, the first thing I noticed was that the air smelled different. We got in line to go through customs and get our passports stamped. Then we got our luggage. Once we did that, we met up with my sister-in-law's family from Thailand. This is how our encounter went. We looked at them and said hello. They put their hands together like they were praying and bowed to us. When they got through all the bowing, at the end, we copied them and returned to bow. They laughed to see us copying their bowing. That can mean 3 things: hello, goodbye, and thank you. The meaning depends on how it is used in conversation. That was interesting. We went to our hotel. One thing that I noticed was that Bangkok had an incredible number of motorcycles on the streets, going this way and that, making all sorts of noise. When we got to our hotel room, we found that it was pretty small and very simple. Just 2 beds with a shower and a toilet in the bathroom. That's all there was. But we only had to pay $17 for the night, so that wasn't bad. It was cheap, but a nice room. We spent some time shopping and relaxing in Bangkok, and then took a bus to the sister-in-law's hometown up in the north, near Laos. That was like being in a new world for me. So many Thai people, and we were the only white people. Everyone was looking at us. I wasn't used to being in the minority like that. The food was absolutely delicious. Different types of rice. It was all just so good. One interesting thing was our sister-in-law's parents' house. It was like 2 stories. The first story was on stilts. There were no walls, but there was a stone floor. As I was walking up to it, my sister-in-law told me to take my shoes off before going in, which I did. There was a bowl of water at the entrance for washing feet. In the house, our bedroom was upstairs. There was mosquito netting over the beds, and the windows had no glass. The beds were really firm. The next morning when we woke up, there was a lizard crawling across one of the beams on the ceiling. It was a really interesting experience. One story I should share is about the bathroom. It had cement walls and was in between the first and second floors. Immediately upon entry, there was a counter with only cold water and a pail. On the right was a toilet on the floor. The water was to be used in place of toilet paper, but we had brought our tissues with us. So I had to squat to go to the bathroom and then pour water from the counter to flush it out. Bathing went like this. You would take off your clothing, bring your soap and supplies. You had to fill the pail with water and pour it over your head, then wash yourself. It was just like a shower, just that you had to pour the water over yourself to rinse yourself clean. We stayed for 5 days and it was quite an experience to live like that. People kept looking at me because of my white skin being so different. The food was wonderful. There were so many things to say about that trip. When we were in town, we did run into 2 white American women. I felt a connection to them right away. Since they spoke English, it was almost a relief, as if I were feeling homesick. We were in Thailand for 3 weeks. We got back to Bangkok and went to see the Royal Palace. It was absolutely gorgeous there, with all the gold and elaborate decorations. There was a temple that we went into to see the many Buddha statues. One of them was a beautiful jade one. We said our goodbyes and flew back home. When people asked me how I felt, I said I was happy to be back home in America.